Gay Adelman, if you would proceed. We do have to still take questions and testimony on this bill and vote. We still have another bill that's still on the agenda for today. I will ask that you please keep your comments brief, as we already have had testimony against the bill. Thank you. Proceed.
Thank you, and I do appreciate you letting me speak today. Most of you know me. My name is Gay Adelman, and most of you know me from my work in public education advocacy with Save Our Schools Kentucky and Dear JCPS. But you may not know, I've been an involved and engaged parent long before moving to Kentucky. My boys are now 24 and 26. I've been a booster mom, a PTA president, chairperson of councils and fundraising committees, and a district-wide PTA officer in 8 different school districts in 4 different states. I also taught K through 8 computer classes for 2 years in a private school in Lilly, Kentucky. So I've seen it all, private, public. I've also been made aware because of my experiences that Kentucky is a leader, and we've been very fortunate to have been a leader in education reform. And site-based decision-making councils may not be perfect, but please don't throw our babies out with the bathwater. I'm here today as chair of the Coalition for the People's Agenda Education Committee. Our All History Matters When Black History Matters campaign is primarily focused on stopping House Bill 14 and House Bill 18. I understand that's not what we're here to talk about today, but this bill is intended to weaken site-based decision-making councils, which is the argument that many of those who are in favor of the bill to ban the teaching of accurate history in our schools needs to know that there's a process that they can participate in. And so by weakening site-based decision-making councils, you're strengthening your House Bill 14 and 18, and this truly feels like a ploy to undermine our efforts. Last time you heard from changes to site-based decision-making councils a couple of years ago, we had a sick out in Jefferson County, and thousands of us descended upon this Capitol to slow the movement of that bill. There was testimony and bipartisan support for adding a parent to the site-based decision-making councils as a solution to one of the problems that we faced in our schools and in our districts. The problems that have been identified by those in favor of the bill are real, but that doesn't mean that the solutions that have been proposed are the solutions. And you haven't heard from the parents and the community members and the taxpayers who actually will be impacted by these changes. And even JCPS has not notified their current site-based decision-making council members that there will be changes. So I implore you to please slow this bill down and make sure that you've heard from both sides what those possible challenges to this bill would be, as well as possible solutions, because there is no data to show that this bill is the solution to the problems that we've been raising for over a decade in our district. Site-based decision-making councils could be impacted by a more equitable student assignment plan, for example. I sat here 2 years ago and showed
Ms.
you a
Adelman,
map.
I ask that you please come to a close
10 seconds.
ending. Thank you so much.
I
Thank
sat
you.
here that day and showed you a map that showed you that our student assignment plan has inequitably impacted our schools in our west part of our community. And if taking away the decision-making power is the solution, why hasn't it helped our West Louisville schools? Because that's been done for over a decade. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from committee members? Senator Givens. Senator Schickel, if you may want to make your way back to the table.
Senator Schickel, thanks for the legislation. You and I have talked about this multiple times. I want you to reiterate for the committee again, the concern was raised a few moments ago that this is too soon, too fast, and moving too quickly. How many years have you been pursuing this?
6 or 7.
6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
The versions, have they changed substantially over the 6 or 7 years?
Not substantially.
What was the original premise? Walk us briefly through that evolution and what may or may not have changed in the legislation this year relative to those other years.
The evolution of the bill, I don't serve on the education committee, but I drive a school bus, and my partner is a retired teacher. And when I got involved in this, she was an active teacher. And so I was in the schools a lot, and I was around the educational in our schools. And so I was listening and talking, and the idea from this bill came from teachers and parents, because I couldn't fathom a system like this where the person who was ultimately responsible for the performance didn't have the tools in the toolbox to change it. When a school is not performing well, we don't say, well, we don't run, the average citizen doesn't go to the site-based council and know about the site-based council. They look at the superintendent. Well, first they look at the principal. They look at the superintendent, and they wonder why their elected officials, the school board, and that's why the testimony about this somehow takes away local control. The school board is the ultimate local control elected by all the citizens of that school district. And so that's the foundation of the bill. But we've made changes. We've added people to the site-based council. We subtracted people to the site-based council. The biggest change we made is we've narrowed the focus. We've narrowed the focus to two things. You know, there's a lot in that chapter about site-based councils and school boards, but the two most important things are curriculum, and as the previous testimony described, people are very interested in curriculum these days, very interested. And there was a lot of confusion on who was ultimately responsible. My own superintendent, well, he's retired now, but my own superintendent, who has been a champion of this bill, as well as several principals and teachers in my district, they actually got in trouble with the Office of Educational Accountability because there was confusion on who is ultimately responsible for the decisions being made, whether it was just because citizens would go to the school board, they'd send them to the site-based council, then the site-based council go, well, oh, that's actually, and so there was no clear accountability. And in any organization, like the superintendent from Shelby so well, I think, articulated, our whole panel did, I couldn't have done it any better, but you're not going to be around in today's society if you don't seek collaboration. You have to collaborate to lead. The PTA, the site-based council, you're just not going to be around. But at the end of the day, any organization has to have someone be able to make a decision. And it has to be the people who are directly accountable to the taxpayers, the parents, and everyone else. And so for me, this bill, its concept is pretty simple. As I've talked to you a lot about it, and I thank you for all your help with guidance, mentoring, our Senate leadership, because at times over those 6-7 years, I got pretty discouraged. But that's kind of walking you from day one up to the present day.
So, Mr. Chairman, brief follow-up. Rhetorical question, but I need you to answer it. I'm confident in the answer because we've had this conversation as well. But under current Kentucky law, with the authority that's invested in a site-based decision-making council, if I, as a taxpayer, do not have a child in that school building that the SBDM oversees, I'm paying the taxes. I have no voice in the curriculum. Is that correct?
That is correct, and it's a great question. And a follow-up, if I might add to that, because I think it's down the weeds a little, but I think it's also very pertinent that a person can be on the site-based council and not even live in that school district and not even live in that state. And we've had that happen in our school district. I take issue with the fact that this bill eliminates or I think it makes site-based councils the important tool for parents and teachers that needs to be there. And any superintendent or principal knows, or state senator or anything, the days of doing your job without collaboration, those are over, especially in a position like that.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Also, members, just want to briefly note, staff alerted me, in your folders, we also have Senator Thomas, who's not here, provided a statement on behalf of the Student Voice Team in opposition of Senate Bill 1. Just want to make sure in your folders you are noticed of that.